Dave the Diver was a game I saw last year absolutely blow up. I saw everyone praising how this indie fishing game was one of the best games of the year. As I had already tried a fishing game earlier in the year within Dredge, I figured why not try another one. I caught the game on a nice sale on Steam and I finally got around to giving it a try. So here's my 100% review of Dave the Diver, and let's just say I was pleasantly surprised how this fishing game implemented so many different ideas that just made this game so much better. Let's talk about Dave the Diver. So this game actually has a fairly pleasant story, and before I jump into it and start talking about it, I just want to point out that there's definitely going to be spoilers about it. So if you haven't played this game or you want to play it, and you don't want it to be ruined, go ahead and skip this section. So the story starts off with you playing as Dave, who received a phone call to work with a friend in a sushi restaurant. But the kicker is Dave's actually going to have to go diving and catch all of the food or gather all of the ingredients for everything to be served. That's the start of it at least. You'll later discover the blue hole that the restaurant sits on changes its layout every dive. So now typically no two dives will really be the same, at least for the first half of the game. This makes for a unique experience. As you progress further, you'll continue to unlock new equipment to help you progress the story. You'll eventually find the sea people, but at first, it's only 2 of them, and eventually you'll help the chief's daughter and bring them back to the sea people village. Here you'll meet the chief, where everyone is going to be surprised to see humans have entered the village. This is where you'll be asked to help the villagers, but first you have to gain their trust, and eventually you'll be asked to help save them and their divine tree. But it also benefits the humans since this is possibly contributing to the earthquakes on the surface also. The story's not crazy long, but it never really feels like it was rushed or they were racing to finish it, but at the same time, to me it didn't feel like it was too short either. My overall thoughts of the story is, honestly, I think it's extremely fun. A pretty original concept, and combine that with the interesting cast of characters, the story can definitely keep you pulled in for a majority of it. I didn't really find myself getting tired of the game at all. Add in the gameplay and diving, and you got an awesome combination, and a whole nother reason to play through the whole story. The characters within this game are pretty enjoyable. The main character who you'll be playing as will be Dave. The main side characters that you'll be interacting with and who are most notable are Bancho, Cobra, and Dr. Bacon. Each one of them provides some sort of service or does something relatively important for the main story. For example, Bancho is the main cook of the restaurant, and any upgrades you do to dishes, he will be performing them. Dr. Bacon contributes a lot to the story when it comes to investigating or helping the sea people, and he can also create a bit of the gear that you can use. Cobra is the big investor and was originally the person that invited Dave out to become the diver for the restaurant, and he's also the one who drives the boat that you're on. Some other side characters can be Duff, who provides all the weapon upgrades and weapon building, Yoshi, who's a good example of a character who has small interactions, but she does play a pretty big role within the game since she handles all of the recruiting of different staff for your restaurant. Overall, I really enjoyed a lot of the characters within this game. Although I never really found myself getting attached to any of them, I did find a lot of my interactions with them to be funny and enjoyable. The game does a good job turning these characters who play such small roles within the story into bigger roles in interactions elsewhere in the game. This can really help out with most of the side content and make it more enjoyable. Next, I'm going to be talking about the world building for this game, and it's absolutely beautiful, and honestly it's one of my favorite things to talk about and one of the big topics I wanted to discuss. One of the big contributing factors that this game has going for it is the randomly procedurally generated layouts for it. Each dive really can feel so much different, and that's what makes this game so enjoyable. You never know what you will find down below. The game is broken down into different locations for you to explore, and you even get different environments with these different locations. For example, you start off exploring the Blue Hole Shallows, and after discovering quite a bit, and progressing and gaining the abilities to dive deeper, you will then discover the Blue Hole Depths, which is essentially a giant cave, and this is where you'll discover the Sea People's village. Going through the village, you'll discover that there's a giant frozen area below the village, which also leads to the hydrothermal area, or at least like the volcanic activity. Each of these locations are great, well designed, and really nice audio to go along with them. It really makes you feel immersed, especially when you're going into the Blue Hole Depths for the first time. It was extremely creepy, and the low light and ambiance in the air really adds to the experience within it. In my opinion, I think they did a great job with the layout and design of each of these different environments. I think the only thing I could complain about is how all of the areas below the Blue Shallows don't exactly change layouts. The only thing I wish was different is that the entire dive was procedurally generated, so no 2 complete dives would be exactly the same. Other than that, I enjoyed each of these locations. The fishing for this game is obviously one of the biggest pieces of content, but it also is one of the most enjoyable pieces of content. Not only can the fishing be extremely relaxing and enjoyable, it can be stressful and intense. Like I mentioned before, each of the zones have different fish inhabiting them. Some of them are passive and others are not so much. Some fish can be captured with just one shot of the harpoon, others take multiple shots. Some of the more aggressive fish in the game, like the sharks, you will have to learn how to maneuver out of the way of their attacks, all while still landing hits. It's not crazy difficult, and I think that's what makes it more fun. There's some kind of challenge, but it's not like it's going to beat you up while you're down. That's at least how daytime fishing goes. There are a few different side quests and missions in the main story that require you to dive at night. During the nighttime cycle, almost every fish will be hostile or attack you when you go by them. This makes it a bit more difficult to fish, but the rewards and types of fish you will be able to get will be better quality and sell for a lot more. You will also be able to dive for a total of 3 times throughout the day, once in the morning, once in the evening, and once at night. The morning and evening dive will progress the day through that phase. During the nighttime though, if you dive, you will only go through 1/3 of the night, so you will still be able to open the restaurant during the last half of the night to make some money. My overall thoughts of the fishing is that it was extremely fun, and also stressful at times when I didn't know the game and diving at night was difficult. Eventually, as I progressed and got better equipment, I would just dash everywhere and catch fish with my knife. But that's a conversation for later. As you progress further in the game, you will continue to unlock different features and side content, and one of the biggest things is the 2 different farms. I'm going to start by going over the vegetable farm, which is where you'll be able to grow rice, garlic, onions, peppers, and a bunch of different vegetables to use in different dishes. You will be able to upgrade the rice field and also the strips of land that you can use to grow different veggies. Honestly, at first, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought it took away from me actually fishing and having to focus on it, but really once I started producing more veggies and I saw how much more the vegetable dishes were bringing in, I realized there's a lot of money in this. So I invested more into it, and eventually you'll be able to hire someone to harvest for you, and once this happens, all you have to do is make sure he has the seeds and fertilizer if you want to grow faster, and you hire him. And boom, you got a massive supply of veggies for absolutely no work, and all you have to do is show up and it gets put in your kitchen. Then there's the fish farm, and honestly, I enjoyed this farm a ton, especially once I realized the potential of what it could be. Similar to the veggie farm, I got eggs for the fish that were in the most expensive dishes, and I would let them multiply and then send them to the kitchen and have unlimited supply of fish so you can make the most expensive dishes for the least amount of work. These farms really just increase your cash flow in the easiest way possible and can make the progression within this game so much faster. I'll be talking more about this in the achievements later. There is an achievement in the game for achieving max rank on Cooksta, which is basically the ranking of the restaurant, and you need to have a dish with the taste of 375. So I use the farm to farm up enough of a certain fish to achieve that taste rank. And that's just a little example of the potential of the fish farm. The progression throughout Dave the Diver can vary. For example, you will continue to progress deeper and deeper into the ocean and reach new depths and find new fish to catch. This will also continue to get you further into the story. Another form of progression is the equipment within the game and the weapons you'll have access to. For example, as you get further in, you'll continue to upgrade your diving suit, O2 tank, and carrying capacity. Each one of these does exactly what you would think it would do. In the end, each one of them makes your quality of life that much easier. You'll also have the ability to upgrade your harpoon and make it deal even more damage. As you get further into the story, you'll unlock the ability to have a crab trap and also upgrade your knife. I personally didn't really find the crab trap super useful, as it's so far into the end game and it doesn't do a crazy lot, especially since you'll be well established by then. But the ability to upgrade your knife is insanely good. This essentially allows you to harvest any type of ore in the water with just your knife instead of needing to find a pickaxe, and it also does more damage. So this is really just more of a quality of life thing. Next, I do want to go over the different weapons within this game, and there's a total of 8 of them. Near the beginning of the game, you will learn that any weapons you pick up while in the water will actually disappear, but they will contribute towards the blueprint, so that way you'll eventually be able to craft that weapon. Once you have gained the blueprint for the weapon, you then have to collect the materials underwater in order to craft the weapon. Once you craft it, this is where the fun begins. Later on, you'll also be able to upgrade each weapon with different affinities, or they can just do more damage. I'm not really going to go into crazy depth about the different affinities, but you basically can apply different status effects to each of these weapons, and it does increase the overall stats of them. My overall opinion of the equipment in this game is super helpful, and some of it's mandatory to upgrade in order to progress the main story, but the game makes it so fun and honestly relatively easy to upgrade your weapons and gear. Getting money can sometimes be challenging, but once you set up your farms and you maximize how much money you make every evening, you can upgrade relatively easy. Most of the time with weapon upgrades, you'll collect the materials as you progress through the story. For me personally, I enjoyed the sniper rifle and found this the most useful. The bosses within this game I wouldn't exactly describe as bosses, but that's exactly what they are. You go up against some freakishly massive fish or some kind of enemy, and you just lay on as much damage as possible. Honestly, I had a ton of fun with the different bosses within the game, and there's so many hidden bosses that are just within the world for you to enjoy. It adds a nice layer of difficulty to the game also. The achievements for this game aren't the most difficult ones you'll ever encounter. I managed to collect all 43 achievements in about 27 hours. More than half of them you can achieve just by playing the main story. There are a few that require you to really do a lot of the side content, but so much of the side content can be enjoyable and you will probably find yourself completing it anyways, or just by exploring you can discover so much stuff that will contribute to trying to complete those achievements in that side content. And I don't really want to ruin it, but they did throw in some really creative ones when it comes to the hidden achievements. The retail price of the game on Steam is $24.99, and honestly I think it's completely worth it. With only about a 12-hour main story, an amazing cast of characters, who are also extremely goofy at times, you are bound to have a wonderful time. For the price you really get a lot of bang for your buck, with a vast amount of side content available to you also. If you're hesitant because it's a fishing game, or for whatever reason, I would strongly urge you to just give this game a chance. And if you don't like it, oh well, you probably will. There you go, there's my 100% review of Dave the Diver. Thanks for stopping by, and if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the like button down below, subscribe, and leave a comment.
Don't do it.